What is up, future millionaires? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Ellie Talks Money, of course. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. And if you haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click the button, like this video, just so that this helps my channel grow so we can continue inspiring and helping more people with their business. So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about my transparent journey of how I went from unemployed, okay, and on social assistance to a millionaire the real way in 1 year. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, and let's get into these gems.
Ellie talks money to create the better days. Business, money, life, the Ellie way.
All right, y'all, so let's jump in here. Now, if you're new to my channel or new to seeing me here online, welcome. I'm so excited to invite you on this journey with me. And if you're an OG and you've been here since 2020, then you probably know this story a little bit. You've seen me start from living in my mom's den to growing my business to millions over the last 3.5 years. And I am so grateful that I went through what I went through, despite how hard it was, because above all, of course, I've been able to change my life and, really just provide for my family. But above all that, I really feel I've been able to give a lot of people hope and inspiration and truly help women who look like me, other business owners as well, to see you can absolutely start from what some would consider the bottom, start from nothing and truly grow a business online. So that is what I'm here to go over with you. And I want to break down for you guys what I did to go from unemployed to a millionaire in a year. So first, let me set the stage for you guys. I started my business around July of 2020, and 2020 was a transformative year for a lot of us with the fact that we had the pandemic. But I started my year by finalizing my divorce in February, moved back to my mom's house, was living in her den because she had someone renting the other room at the time. And it was me and my 4 children. So in the den was my bed in the corner, the twins' bed, on the side, because my twins at that time, or their cribs, I should say, my twins at that time were about 6 months old. And then my older 2 kids were sharing one of the smaller rooms up at the front of the house. So, it was a tight fit. And mind you, I hadn't lived at my mom's house since I graduated since I graduated high school at age 17. So to come back at age 27 with kids after divorce, unemployed, I was just like, oh my God, it was definitely a test. It was a test. But I knew that this was a breaking point in my life. I felt like I had already lost so much, lost my marriage, moved back home, wasn't living where I was living in Texas anymore. So where else could I go but up? Right? So I applied to several jobs at this time. It wasn't really my first idea to go be an entrepreneur. I didn't plan on that. I thought I was just going to go back into the workforce, which is what I had been good at. I had a director of sales job. I was making 6 figures before I was laid off from my job before the divorce. So I was like, let me just go get a job because this is what I know how to do. Y'all, 50 something applications later, no hires. And I'm like, all right. So I start doing Postmates, DoorDash, just ways to make money because I did not want to be completely unable to really support myself and my children, even despite the fact that I was living with my mom, who was definitely helping me. And this was around the time that the stimulus checks were coming, or at least that we learned they were coming. So I got my stimulus check around May, and that $1,200, I sat on it for a little while. Of course I could have gone to spend it right away, but I really sat on it and thought, what could I do with this? For me, that was a lot of money at the time, and I considered it free money because I didn't have to pay it back, which was awesome. What could I do with this money? And it was that $1,200 that I used to start my business in July, providing courses, online education, and consulting to small businesses. And that same $1,200 turned into $1.2 million by the time we got to April of 2021. So truly, a flip the bag flip the bag moment And that's when life really started to change. So I want to share with you guys the steps that I took to go from, that point A to that point B. The first step is really taking accountability, and not in a way of blaming myself, but taking accountability for where I was, what had happened for me to get there, so that I can learn from it and move forward. So I had to accept the fact that, when I had my great job, I was not managing my money well. There is no way I should have been making six figures, and then when I got laid off, have almost nothing to show for it and blew through my severance package. That was irresponsible. So I had to take accountability for that. I also had to take accountability for my marriage. The fact that maybe I stayed too long. I should have made different decisions. Grateful, of course, for the beautiful children that I have, but really recognizing there's errors that I made, and of course, errors that my partner made. Taking accountability for that. And then lastly, really looking at where I am, going, living back home at my mom's house, and taking accountability in such a way where I say, yes, I'm starting back at square one, but again, the only place I can go is up from here. It's not the end. It feels like it, and it's hard, but this is almost like a clean slate. I can start over. And it took me some time to really embrace that mindset. I had to pray a lot, I cried a lot, but it gave me hope. It made me feel like, yes, I'm starting from zero, but it's almost like a reset button. And that's why I encourage you guys, whenever you're going through difficult things in your life and it feels like, why is everything, pouncing on my head at the same time? We often think when we're in a dark place that we've been buried, but I like to think that you've been planted. And that's a quote that I read way back in 2020 that I believe really got me through. You haven't been buried, you've been planted. Now is your time to really bloom. So look at your situation, assess what has gotten you there, pick up the lessons from that, and use that to move forward. The next step that I took to prepare myself to grow in this business, or really just to grow, okay, again, I was not thinking I would be an entrepreneur, is I took inventory of my skills. So, of course, I had gained work experience from being a director for 2 years at my previous job. I had work experience from working for a financial services company before that. So I'm like, all right, let me see, what am I working with? And I recommend this for you too, because a lot of the time we think we need to go out and get more or learn more or get another degree or get another certification in order for us to be qualified for something. But in fact, you probably already have the qualifications you need right now. You just need to make a list of them. So take some inventory of your skills. What are you good at? What have you helped people do in the past? What accolades have you received? What comes naturally to you? What's easy for you? Where do people always ask you for advice on, etc.? This is going to help you get clear on what value you can add either to a job or to a business. So when I took inventory of my skills, I went and updated my LinkedIn. I was like, all right, let's go. I should be able to get a call back soon. Crickets, okay? Crickets, absolutely nothing. And that is what eventually led me to see, well, maybe God is not trying to have me go in the direction of a job. Maybe I need to be going in the direction of a business. And that brings me to my next step, tip 3 here, which is to observe the business landscape and look at where are people making money? Where and how are people making money? What business models do you see showing up a lot, right? On Instagram, on social media, in articles. What types of businesses are people starting where they're making money? And when I did that research in 2020, I saw a lot of e-com, right? Which is still the case now. I also saw a lot of digital products being sold. I noticed a lot of people creating brands around what they knew how to do and selling low ticket, mid ticket, or even high ticket, courses, classes around this subject matter. So I pay attention to that. That is a key thing that you should do as well, because you don't need to go and reinvent the wheel. Look at what is already working and how can you take what you know how to do and what you're interested in, what you're good at, and fit it inside of what is already working. So I essentially then took my skills, that inventory list I made of all my skills and everything I knew, and looked at the business model of consulting, coaching, and digital education and said, okay, how can I make these two work together? Because there's obviously something here that's working. Maybe it could work for me too. Now, mind you, I had 300 followers who were just people I went to college with or high school with. I was not, I didn't start with a head start, if you know what I mean. I didn't have already a following, nothing. So this was really like taking a big jump out on faith and just saying, well, let's try, So that's what led me to start creating content that educated people on financial literacy, because I worked in financial services. I started talking about life insurance because I used to be director of sales for a life insurance company. I started talking about business funding because I worked for a startup. And so I saw the progression in our company and what we did to secure funds, what we did to grow the business, to grow the team. I started talking about, business growth from the perspective of a leader within a business. And once I started to create more of this content, pieces of it really started to pick up, especially the business funding element. And so once I noticed that, I went all in. I said, you know what, if this is what people want to know, I'm going to give them everything I know about it and then some. And I committed to being an expert in this field. And that was one of the first courses I created, $15. It was called my Business Credit Masterclass. Again, it was $15. And I remember that product is what made me my first $500 in a day around October 30th, I want to say, of 2020. And I was just over the moon. I'm like, $500 in a day? Y'all, you couldn't tell me anything. I was so excited. And it really was exciting because it made me see what's possible. So I kept going. I think by November or December, I reached my first $10,000 month and kept going. Y'all, January 2021 was the first month I ever made $100,000 in a month. And it really just took off. So that brings me to my next point. Tip 4, right? Go all in. Based on the story that I'm sharing with you, I want you to understand it doesn't have to be perfect for it to start to make profit. It doesn't. You don't have to have the prettiest Instagram page. You don't have to have the best looking background. Your course doesn't have to be all decked out. I made mine on Canva and on Zoom, but I put value into it. It doesn't have to be perfect to make profit. It just has to be valuable, and you have to give it your all. You have nothing to lose, especially when you are starting from ground zero, which is what it can feel like. Why not give it your all? And that's the way I looked at it. I said, you know what? I have no job. I'm living at home with my mom. My kids are looking at me. I want to be an example to them. I'm going to put my all into this as if it was a job. I'm going to treat this like this is my opportunity for whatever life has to bring. And my initial goal was just to make $10,000 a month. I did not think that this would grow to $1 million company. That would have been amazing, but it really wasn't even on my mind. I said, if I can get to $10,000 a month, then I can move out, I can take care of my kids, I can get an apartment, and I'll be so grateful. And I just went all in until I got there. And then when I got there, I said, well, what if I could make a little more per month? So I really say that to say, give it your all. Give it your all. You have nothing to lose. All gas, no brakes. All gas, no brakes. Okay? The same energy we put into sometimes doubting ourselves, stop that and put that energy into believing 100% and going after it, because there isn't anyone standing in your way except for yourself. I could have looked at the fact that I had only 300 followers, not really a nice background to record. I could have looked at that as a reason to say, okay, I'm not going to do this because who's going to like my content? But I decided to say, you know what? This is out of my control. This is where I live. So I'm going to make it work with what I have, and I'm going to go all in. So that's the same thing I would say for you all. Okay. Now, one thing I want you guys to do is click the link down below and take my free quiz. This quiz is going to help you identify your path to your first million. And it's got some great tools, resources, and strategies that will help you to get there. So make sure you take that quiz so you can get your results. And I want you guys to comment as well. What questions do you have about your first year of business. Where are you struggling right now in business so that I can take those questions and implement them into my next video or into my next live stream. Make sure you do turn on your post notifications because I go live a few times a week and I want to make sure that you're in the room so I can answer your questions there too. Love y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.